G'day Paree, what are you doing?
Oh, right, hey Pop. Right now I'm pretty much just whittling around my butter knife,
Yeah.
trying to get some curves in there to make it look nice.
Yeah, it's tricky that bit, isn't it, where you got the changing grain, but that's looking
Yeah.
pretty good.
Thanks.
Hey, how about we carve a chook?
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty fun.
Oh yeah, look at this. I love carving chooks. This is a whole lot of fun. So let's carve a chook in 10 easy steps. Alright, so we supply, to get the job started, blocks like this that I've already got some of the work done, and then you go from there. It just makes it a whole lot easier. So how about this, Paree? You have that bit of English lime,
Sweet.
and I'll have this bit of silky oak. Let's do some chook carving. Carving chooks is a whole lot of fun. It's a great little whittling project. Fantastic thing about chooks is they all come in lots of different shapes and sizes and varieties.
And ducks.
And oh yeah, ducks. We're doing chooks in this session at the moment. So what do you reckon is the most common thing about chooks, whatever type they are?
They're adorable no matter what.
True, they are adorable, aren't
But
they?
pretty much it's their head and tail and body,
Yeah.
especially when you're carving, you want to try and find their perfect structure.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
the tails might be different,
Yeah.
and the heads might be different. So what we need to do is start out with our block with a pencil and sort of say, righto, whereabouts is my head going to go? Is it going to be a tail that sticks up in the air or a tail that hangs down?
If you want to do this, guys, it's best if you say if you have a favorite chicken, try to do like your body and face and structures like that if you like it like that.
Excellent idea. All right, so I've just done a bit of a drawing on the side here. There you go, how's that? So that's just to give me a bit of an idea. Hello, you hiding behind the chook?
No, it looks more like a goose.
Oh, thanks for that. So that's just giving me an idea. So I know I've got to get rid of this piece out of the middle. The block has already got that shape to it, so there's the fatter part of the body down the bottom. Yep. And we're going to do the shaping from there. What do you reckon? So how about we draw this, eh?
Yeah, sure.
Grab your pencil and let's get these drawn on here. So there it is. I've got my chook drawn on there. Okay. But before we do anything, what I want to do is take the sharp corners off the block here so it fits more comfortably in the hand. All right. It's a really good opportunity to refresh our memory about how we do the whittling skills. We've got a little video about introduction to knife skills, to whittling skills. That's a really good thing to see just to learn some of these tricks. But one of the really important rules is no slashing blades, none of this stuff, okay? Not only do I don't have control and I'm throwing energy away, but I don't want to take out Paree.
No.
That's right. So here we go. I'm just going to get this closer so you can see. So I'm going to use my thumb. This thumb, I've got that thumb sort of half on the back of the blade and half off, and this thumb pushes it along like that. So taking those off there, that's going to work really nicely. So we just want this working away along here. Beautiful, all right. So this is the thumb push, the thumb pushing the thumb. Another method is to do this thumb pivot, where I basically hold this thumb still and this thumb pivots off it. So I've got to have a flapping elbow to make that work. And that will work quite nicely, doing this wide sweeps along here. Again, my thumbs are staying connected. That works pretty good. All right.
Pretty much just act like they're tied together.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Paree. That's pretty well said. Act like they're tied together. All right, so all I've done is I've rounded that off, makes it more comfortable in the hand. Now, what I'm going to do first is start to do a little bit of work around in the bottom here and around the bottom of the bird. I'll get to the head and neck in a minute. So we've got these sharp corners here. We need to take those off, don't we?
Yeah.
So with a V here, I can get my blade down in below and just start to take that out. Those nice little push cuts in there, a thumb push. So I'm putting it down into the V and taking those sharp corners out like that. And this is not a square chook, is it?
No.
So it's got to have a bit of shape to it. So you can see I'm going to start to do this curve around underneath here. How you going with that?
Yeah, good.
Yep. So some of that is going to be working up this way, this direction, and some of it is going to be going this direction. So I've turned it around, so I'm holding the chook by the body here, and I'm working down into that V, starting to round the corners out. You see that's starting to get a bit of shape in there. All right. That's what we're looking for. How you going there, Paree?
Yeah, good.
I love carving chooks. It is so much fun.
I love seeing the wood when it gets taking off the bark and stuff.
Yeah. Gets really shiny off a nice sharp blade, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So I've come around in the bottom there, starting to round that out. That. Now, what I'm going to do is refresh your memory on the thumb pull. So this is how it works. I've turned the blade around so my thumb is sitting on the side instead of on the end. It's around on the side. And I'll sit it here, and I'm going to use this thumb to pull the blade down. Now this hand does not push. The knife hand does not push. And as it comes around here, this I'm doing the pulling, it goes click when it hits this ledge around the bottom here. And that is a way I can safely cut towards me because this hand is not pushing. If anything, that hand's trying to pull away, and so you can't cut yourself. Now it's not unusual to draw a bit of blood when you do this, when you're learning and getting the skills right.
If you don't feel that comfortable using this stuff, make sure you have your adult parent or whoever looks after you with you.
Yeah, do the chook carving together, I reckon, like we are now, hey?
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun when you do it with someone else.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just whizzing around the bottom here, just cleaning up that little shelf. All right, so that's enough in there for now. How you going? You got yours pretty much? Yep, you're still working on coming around the corner. There's a chook brewing. Okay, so we've got this nicely rounded in here. Paree's is looking pretty good too. So the next thing we're going to do is to take this piece out of the center, because it'll make it easier for us to get on with shaping the head and the tail. So we're going to take that out. Two different ways of doing this. One way is to use a knife. The other way is to use a coping saw. So with a knife, what I need to do is to come down in here and do a series of V-shaped cuts. So I'm using two different techniques here. See my hands changing? And I make that V bigger and bigger, and I come in from both sides. All right, and that will get me started into there. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, and they're going to meet in the middle. And Paree, you're going to use a coping saw, aren't you?
So a coping saw is pretty much like a regular, it's not really like a regular saw, it's probably one of my favorites. But you can see here how it's point. It's got little teeth, but these little teeth are extremely sharp, so just make sure that you're careful with them. So when you're using a coping saw, it's pretty much just a matter of which angle you're working at, but coping saws are also used for getting around tight edges and corners, pretty much curves. So as you see here, I'm just keeping my hands away and I'm just slowly going back and forward. What you want to do, you want to try to get a nice rhythm, just so it doesn't go all crazy, or else you just take it all over the place. When you're sawing with a coping saw, you just want to pretty much just roll your hand, and you just don't want to push against the wood, you just want to roll it and just pretty much be friends with the wood. But now I want to try to get my tail into it too. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to slowly find my bark back, and voila, it's out. And then I'm going to take it from the side of my tail. I'm doing a low tail, so I pretty much just start from a specific level that you want it to be. Make sure that you have your eyes on a bird's view.
The trick is to keep the saw moving, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you keep the saw moving, it's easier to turn it. So I see you coming down around on the inside of the tail there now. You're going to go down and join up with the other cut.
Yeah.
And that whole piece will come out.
Or if it doesn't come out, just prick it out. Sometimes the sawdust just gets in the way, so you just got to blow it up.
So you can see your line, hey?
Yeah. Otherwise you'd just be going all over the place.
So I'm just using this sort of sweeping cut in here, coming down in here, so I'm separating out the head from the tail. And I'll come in from the other side and I can do the same thing. So that just doing this means when I start to shape this down, I've got a bit less work to do. There we go. One tail. Now that tail's going to be a bit shorter, so I'm just using the thumb push, which gives me a lot of power and control, just to take the top off that. Beautiful. There we go. So there's the beginnings of that. Now I've got the head coming up here. Okay, so that's good enough for now. So the next thing that I want to do with this is to start to put the shape in the bird here, like this. And at the tail end, that might be narrower and come down a bit lower because of the shape of the body. So the way I'm going to do that is come in with my knife in a curving cut with a thumb push. So it's a rolling cut because I want that to be curved. You see that? And that's setting that up. There you go, to get that nice sweep in there. Front end, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So curving from down up in there and around the corner. So a little bit more of that. Beautiful. There you go. So that's the beginnings of that shape. I'm going to come around the other side. Now my pencil line's going to go off here, but I'm going to redraw them again if it's going to help me stay oriented. Sweep that around. So look, getting pretty close. That'll do for the moment. And the tail going to come a bit thinner. Yeah, up the top like that. And this one here down a little bit more. Beautiful. So that's working okay. Now it'll be less material if I'm going to come down a little bit lower into here to get that shape. Look at this. This is like a potato peeling method. Getting that down into there. Alright, that's looking good. There we go.
Pretty much when I'm doing it, I'm just pretty much just rolling my hand a bit with the thumb push. This is probably one of the most controllable but powerful techniques that I pretty much know. And when I'm doing it, I just want to quickly just curve it a bit. That will do enough for that side. And you just pretty much just want to take it around.
Yeah, that's a nice curving cut you got happening there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. You can see your bird's starting to take shape. So got that nice big fat body like a good egg layer.
Yeah, I was going to base it off my chook.
Ah, what's your chook?
My chook's a silky bantam.
Ah,
Her
they're
name
beautiful.
is Nugget, mainly because she looks like a nugget. No, she's tender and crispy. Her colour, skin and everything.
Oh, poor thing. That's a bit rough. So what I need to do now, just to help make it easier for myself, I'm going to have a bit of a comb up on here, going to have a beak in there, bit of an eye happening. This one might have some wattles hanging around under the neck, so that'll go down there, and I might take that a little bit lower down into here. And of course here's my tail up in here. So that's where we're heading. we've got the shape happening here nicely. We've got that bit happening. That's looking pretty good. Next thing I'm going to do is move over to the neck. So we want to get this nice breast in the front here and coming up into there underneath the wattles. So I've got my pencil line drawn here. I'm going to show you how we do that. Now if you watch the video on the introduction to whittling skills, we did the V-shaped cut. So I'm working on the wide flat area. I'm going to work on this sharp corner. So I go in there with a stopping cut, then I turn the blade and come back with a pull cut. And that little V is going to get bigger and bigger. And I'm going to gradually move that around the corner as we go across. Come to this side. So there's the stopping cut. Come back the other way, click. And so that in there is how I'm going to start to separate this out. So now I can start to come in there with that nice long cut, and I'll go in there for one of those. That's it. Beautiful. So we need this to start to be curved in here. So this cut is going to come from right back here, and I'm working my way around, starting to round that back. And in we go. So we're just getting that shaping happening around in there. We want this to come back in. So that is what we're heading towards. How's that, eh? Looking good, Paree.
Thanks.
Get a nice shape happening there.
Hey Pop, what are you doing now?
Ah, well, I'm starting to shape the neck and the head. So I've done this V underneath here. So that's where I'm going to have a nice pair of wattles in there. And this is the beginnings of the beak. Now the beak is going to be a little bit stubbier than you would ordinarily think of a chook, because otherwise if it's too long, the grain going this direction, it makes it a little bit weak. So I'm going to have a stubbier beak, and I'll show you how we do that. So I've been down in here doing my little V-shaped cut, pushing in there and down into there, so I get that shape happening. That wattle is not going to stick out as far as that, so I can just gently shave that across there. Right, so this is where the beak's going to be. So I'm going to come in with that thumb push and roll it up and around, in and up and around. So this is going to be quite triangular just in here. And around we go. There we go, that's looking pretty good. All right, now I'm going to have a bit of a comb up the top here. So to do that, I'm going to hold my blade right out here on the tip, so I can just get the tip of the blade in. I'm going to go in and just break it out, in and break it out. So you start to create that little bit of a flat top on the top of the head there. You see that? All right, so I go in and around, in and around. Now I've got to make sure that that ends up in the middle of the head. So before I get too carried away, I'm going to turn around on this side and do the same thing. Go in and flick it up. Because we're right on the end of this piece of wood, we're basically just breaking those out after we've gone in there. He's got a bit of a flat top hairdo at the moment.
Yeah.
But we're going to fix that. That's all right. So down in there, we'll start to round it. Coming down in there, we'll start to round it. That's it. So I'm going to go in a little bit further yet. Round there, like that. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to come in from the other side, so we get it a bit more even. Beautiful. Look at that. One awesome looking comb emerging.
More of a mohawk. Mohawk's
Bit of a mohawk. It is a bit of a mohawk, isn't it? So just very gently coming in there to get that rounded in there. Okay, that's looking good. I can make it a bit less square by coming up from the bottom there. There you go. And I'll take a bit off the top of the head here to about there. How's that? Now, the beak itself, to do the beak, I'm going to make it like a triangle. So I'll take that bit off that side. I'll take that bit off that side. So we make that, there's a bit of a beak happening, see that? And the wattle under here is going to be divided into two. So if I do a little V-shaped cut in there and make that a bit bigger, I can separate those wattles in there. And they kind of come out from in here, so I'm going to bring that bottom part of the beak around. Pretty serious pair of wattles there. I'm just going to ease them off a bit. There we go. So I'm going to just keep working on that until I separate the two wattles from each side. And of course, it's going to need an eye in here somewhere, like that. Is that looking more chook-like? So I'm just in here working on some of the detail now. So I'm going to just get that comb happening up in the top of here. So I can come in with the tip of the knife and just push with that thumb. I can also come in and do a little tiny V this way. You see with this blade, it's a little bit tricky with all of that. That's where this little beastie, this little chip carving knife, is fantastic for this smaller detail. So I'm doing little tiny V-shaped cuts, and I'll come in here and just pick that bit out and into there. So we're just getting that little bit of texture in the comb. And I'll come around here a bit more, get some more texture into there. And that's what we're looking for. Yeah, all right. So those little chip carving knives are fantastic for this job because I haven't got all that blade. I've got more handle than blade. It works really nicely. So I'm just doing the little fiddly detail in here. So we produce some texture in the comb. Get that tip down into there and cut that bit out. Yeah, you see that bit of texture that's forming in there? So I'll mess around and do a bit more of that, and I'll do it from the other side. Looks like the poor chookie needs another eye. Otherwise we'll be calling it Cyclops.
Good one. You're hilarious, aren't you?
Right, want that tidied up underneath there. Lots of gentle knife action as we do the shaping. Take that sharp bit off the back of the head. Yeah, that's looking better. Now, here's my tail. So I'm going to come around up in here and probably is to do a series of V cuts across here, like that. So to do the V cut, whichever blade I'm using, I'm going to start in here and push that in. There's my stopping cut. Then come back the other way with that thumb pull. And you're just going to make that a little bit bigger each time. See that? So there we go. There's the first one of those, like a sawtooth, isn't it? Now I'm going to do the next one. Stopping cut first, which is that push. And I'm going to do the little thumb pull, bring it back, work my way up. So when you have the pencil line on the side, just makes it a little bit easier to see where you're going. So now the next one, and then we go. So I'm just going to work my way up here doing this bit of shaping. This is like, if you imagine, whoop, just chop that one out. If you imagine the ends of the feathers in here. So if I wanted to do this, I could draw those coming down into there like the ends of feathers. So this is just setting it up to get that started. Oh, look, I grabbed the little knife. Going, whoop.
What is that?
Hey, I forgot how sharp this little knife was. There we go. So that's good because what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change the variety of chook by taking that off there.
Guys, if you're watching
this
this, don't take that one as an example. Take it as a bad example.
No, look, it's all right. Things happen, and that's how you end up creating another chook. You know, you get a new chook breed because something goes wrong with a traditional one.
You know, it's this one, the anti-cyclops.
That's it. There we go. So it's just one of those ones with a lower tail. Okay, so this is going to come around here. I can accentuate that V around the corner to make it even better. That's looking much better. There you go, so it's not as flat now. Chop those into there, you see that? That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Now I'm going to come around and do the same on the other side. So I'm going to just cut that V out a bit deeper, so it all comes down to the angle of this blade, sneaking around the corner. Right. There we go, it's looking good. Now, I'll do a little bit of shaping on here, but of course, every chook has one of those, doesn't it?
Are you serious?
Well, why not? Okay, so there we go.
Parents, if you're watching this, I'm sorry for his bad behaviour.
That's not bad behaviour. That's
Yeah,
just
you're naughty.
that's just looking at nature.
Yeah, which side?
All right, so here we go.
It looks more like a pillowcase, don't you agree, guys?
No, not a pillowcase.
It's a rectangle. It needs more curves at the bottom.
All right, so that's not looking too bad, is it? What if I decided I was going to do a little bit of a wing thing on here? Now, that's where this little chip carving knife is really handy, because I can use that blade to draw a line around there. So this thumb is pushing, this one is not pushing. It's just controlling, well, that comes around into there. And then that's like a stopping cut. And then I'm going to come up in underneath. There you go. And you see, with wood carving, it's all about light. It's the way light bounces off the piece of wood to create the illusion of depth. So there it is. That's just kind of separated it out. I can make that even more pronounced. I'll bring that up in there a little bit more, and I'll just do that little tiny V in there, so this comes up around the corner. I'll make that a bit darker, so I'll basically go in a little bit further and come in here a little bit more, and so forth. And that's how I can get this sorted out, using this knife in here. If I want to put some feathers in here, some wing feathers, I can do the same thing. It's a little one of those little V cuts in there. There's the stopping cut, there's the little pull cut there, and I'll just do a series of those. It's just creating the illusion of feathers. They don't have to be anatomically perfect, and that's going to do it, because what's going to really make this work well is that little bit of paint that we're going to put on there very soon, and that will really make the difference. So you're drawing the wing on there?
Yep.
Getting ready to do the detail on the wing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good job, Paree. Tricky doing the detail.
Yeah.
See if you can use the smaller knife, the little chip carving knife, Paree. You might find that a bit easier.
No, I actually find this a bit easier.
Oh, yeah? Okay. So this is the trick, is getting the little detail in there. Yeah, beautiful. Making those wings and things.
Since when are you Dr. Seuss?
There we go. Check out this little chook. This one here is ready for paintwork. I'm going to cut this off at the bottom here, so it'll have a little stand. It's like she's roosting. She's just sort of sitting low.
I guess
Pretty
my
cool,
chook's
eh?
very sad.
Not at all.
It is.
How you going there, Paree, with that detail? Just about done?
Yeah, really good actually.
It's looking pretty good. So, what's your chook doing? Is it sitting on the ground? Is it going to be standing on a little pedestal? See, this one here is just sitting on a little base that just stands on the ground. What's yours going to be doing?
I think I'd just make it look like it's nesting, cut it off around about like there, I guess.
Yeah, okay, above the V. Yeah, I thought I might do mine with a bit of a base on the bottom. So I'm going to cut mine off about there, so it has like a little stand. So there's going to be different styles.
Yeah.
I reckon it's time you and I did the painting.
Yeah, let's do
What do you
this.
think, hey?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, let's paint them. So what do you reckon, Paree? What do you think we should do for colouring? What are you going to do with your chook?
I don't know really. I think I'd probably do something like a similar replica of that.
Yeah.
Just put so it's got pretty much just got varnish on it. And it's just got bits of black around it.
So it's not actually varnish, it's shellac.
Oh, okay.
So all we had to do with this one is it got red to do the comb and the wattles on the front, you know, a bit of brown on the wing, a bit of brown on the tail, black in the eye, and all that other colour just comes from the shellac, which has a kind of an orangey sort of look. And that seals it as well. So we're going to put the colour on first and then go over the top with the shellac. Pretty cool,
But
eh?
what happens if you do this one too?
Well, that's done the same actually. That's shellac also, only that one's got a little bit of black down in between the tail feathers in there. But otherwise it's done exactly the same.
That's good.
Cute, hey? All right, so let's do it. I reckon you've done enough on there. I reckon it's time to do the painting, don't you think? So we've got really fine brushes here for when we want to do the really little detail. Getting into if we're going to highlight feathers or anything like that. So let's do some painting, hey? So if I want to do the eye, I've got a soft pencil here. I'm going to poke that pencil into the eye and just spin it around a bit. That makes that nice and dark, eh?
Oh, I thought you put paint in it.
Nah, it's easier like this. How's that for an eye?
No, that's something
Aye, aye,
everyone
Captain.
could do at home.
Right, now what I'm going to do is get a little bit of this red here, and I'm going to paint the comb up the top. So I've got a really fine brush, so I can just get that right where I want it and move that around. Now these are just some artist acrylics, and these paints go a long way. Ah, what a good looking girl this one is. Beautiful. She's a redhead. And that's the comb on top. All right, beautiful. This is the fun part. You don't even have to be a super fantastic carver. It's that little tiny bit of paint just to highlight the detail makes all the difference. Just going to look like $1 million. How you going, Paree?
Yeah, pretty good.
Oh yeah, nice. That's looking good. Which is a beautiful thing. The interesting thing about this is if you overshoot with the paint like I did on the top there, I can actually use the knife just to cut away a bit of paint that's gone in a place that I don't want it to be. And that's a useful trick to have.
Smart.
Yeah, works a treat. I've had a lot of chooks over the years and they're all a bit different.
It's look like a redhead with a beard.
A redhead with a beard, that's nice.
Look. It's like his beard.
She's a ripper. A redhead with a beard. You laughing at my dappled chook? I've got a bit of a mix of colours going on here. Look at that. Is she looking pretty cute?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the green tail. Nice work. Love that.
Randomly popped into my... I got the wrong colour. I thought it was black, so I applied it.
Green
but
is
it was too
good.
late.
Look at that. That's beautiful. Nice work. So this is a bit of fun. Going to end up going over the top of this with shellac, so it'll kind of
stand out a bit.
well, yeah, and sort of browns it all out a little bit too.
Shellac
see what
kind of like
happens.
magnifies stuff, doesn't it?
Some colours and other colours it sort of squashes them, so it just depends. I like the green idea. Can I steal that idea of yours?
Go ahead. I'm going to use it for my wings too.
I might put a little bit of green highlights in the tail. I love those chooks that have the iridescent feathers in their tails.
Into a rooster now. The green would have gone better with like this side of tail, wouldn't it?
What's fun about this is just painting together, and you know, it's a whole lot of fun. A little bit of some green highlights. Oh yes, she's a beautiful girl, this one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, tell her she's dreaming.
Yeah, you're hilarious.
No,
Let me have my moment for a second.
Okay, you enjoy that little moment.
Too
My
late.
chook
You already
is
ruined it.
my chook is enjoying her colouring moment here. There you go. I'm interested to see. I might lose some of that green when I do the shellac on it, but
That looks pretty good.
we'll see what happens. That's my paint job done for now.
And I'm still going.
Yeah. Hey, here, can I steal that for a minute? I just want to bring it up to the camera. How's that? She's a beautiful thing, Paree. Love that shape. Ah, that's a what do you call a Christmas chook?
Yeah, you're hilarious.
All right, what do you reckon, Paree? We got these ready to go?
Yep.
Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to put a coat of shellac over the top. You don't have to do that, but it's just going to kind of seal it and give the chook a bit of a browny kind of colour. If you don't want a brown chook, don't put the shellac on. All right, so with a bit of brush, I got poured a bit of shellac into this here. All I want to do is to wipe it on like that. In my case, I got to come down into the base as well.
The chook is destroyed.
It's not destroyed.
It is.
No,
It's sad.
it's good. No.
The gold disappeared.
So what you got to do is put it on really lightly. Don't go hard over all those bits there. Well, we knew the gold might disappear,
Sadly.
so that's okay. It actually protects it. Shellac, you know, is one of the best sealers you can get. You can put a lot of things over the top, so you might even be able to put your gold over the top of the shellac after it's dry.
Yeah, I think I will.
Yeah, that's all right. But what it's going to do here, with, in this case, mine's a bit of a Technicolor chook, isn't it?
Looked like it ran through a Hungry Jack's drive-through. Now, if you guys actually look at it, all the colours look like it was deep fried in a meat tray.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Then ran through.
Glazed, the glazed chicken look.
Yeah, and then it ran through, I don't know, sauce factory or some sort.
You've got a weird imagination, you know that?
Thanks, I wonder where I get it from.
Must be from your mother, not from me.
Yeah.
All right, look at that.
Right.
So I've got that on there, and that's all it needs. One coat, well, it doesn't need that. It will lose a little bit of that shine, but it will maintain a bit of a shiny look about it. It's just sort of muffled the colours down a bit, and I'm pretty happy with where that's gone with my little Technicolor chook. Hey.
You and your chickens.
All
Voila.
right. Voila. All right, hold up for the camera.
Beautiful.
It is. Oh, she looks so
I
nice.
know, it's better than yours.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to give these a moment to dry, and then we're going to cut them off in the appropriate place and get the shellac back on the underside, and chook whittling is done. Alrighty, so here we are. I'm going to cut mine off about here, so I've got that little base, a little stand for it. So I'm going to use a bench hook as a way of holding it when I do the sawing. I'm going to start out first with my little square, because if I put a line on here, it always helps. And another line on the front side. So all I need is those two lines there and there. And that's all I need. So I'm going to push it up against the upstand on here, and I'm going to use a saw for this. And I just want a reasonably fine saw. I'm going to go about there, and away we go. So whenever we're sawing, you want to keep your eye directly above the saw. Okay, don't stick it out to the side. And then just going back and forth in here, nice even rhythm. All the way to the bottom, and the little chook's going to fall off. And she is. Look at that. Now, I can come around with a small knife, just gently take that hairy bit off. That's all it needs. And then to finish this, I would just get that brush with a little bit of shellac and just seal the underside as well.
And make sure that your chicken is dry.
Make sure your chicken is dry when you do this, yeah. How's that? Got a nice little stand that she sits on. Alright, I'm going to let that dry. And my little chookie is done. Righto, whereabouts are you going to cut yours off, Paree?
Pretty much just around about let's just say around about here.
Okay, so instead of sitting on a stand, yours is looking like she's roosting, like she's, well, nesting, sitting on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
Having
so
a little
I'm pretty
holiday.
much just drawing a line, just so I have guidance.
Yep. Cool.
It's a good line.
Yeah.
When I'm sawing, I want to take my hand and put it right here.
All right, let's go. Nice rhythm, even with your eye directly above the saw. There's a girl in a hurry. There it is.
There's my chook.
Beautiful. Oh yes. So is there a little bit of a hairy bit underneath? Just get that short blade and just very gently trim off the hairy parts. And then you'll be able to get the shellac and just stick a bit on the bottom of that, just a tiny amount. And there it is. Look at that. Fooly dooly. What a beautiful looking chooko. All right, just leave that on its side so it can dry. Good work, Paree.
Thank you.
So what do you reckon, Paree? What do you think about your chook?
I actually quite like it. I was a bit disappointed with the gold though, but after I finished with the shellac, I just put a little extra gold bits on it so it just stands out a bit more and just add a little bit of a belly.
Yeah, that's a nice touch, that little bit on the tummy.
Thanks.
That's cool.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with mine. This is a bit of a multicoloured chook. She's looking pretty nice. I'm quite happy with her.
Yeah, it's really cute.
So what about those bits of wood on the end? You know, when you cut that off, what about this bit here?
Well, with these bits of wood, we could actually make a little duck out of it, you see?
Ooh,
But that's
like
for another
that.
video, guys. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a farewell now.
Yes. Oh, look. But wait, there's more. What about this little one here? What about the little black swan? Isn't that cute?
Okay,
So these are all things we can do. Ah, well, you don't chuck that bit away. You can always carve another chook. It's a great little whittling project, isn't it? Don't you reckon?
Yeah, I guess it is.
It's awesome. So, here's from the chooks. See you
Bye.
later.
Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye, guys.
See ya.